Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of Beyond the Tape, a podcast where we talk to people doing rad things in the mountain bike industry, whether that's media, techs, mechanics, riders, whoever. This episode is another version of the Tech Talk where we chat with Mick from Williams Racing Products and Lachy McKillop from SRAM. We chat about Crankworx, we chat about new technologies, and we chat about handlebars and adjustability. We talk about a bunch of stuff in this one. Before we jump into the episode, though, let me thank some of our supporters. The major supporter of the Tech Talks is Lead Out Sports. Now, Lead Out Sports are one of the main sponsors for this because they hold and stock some of the best tools on the market. Whether you're an entry-level mechanic or someone just wrenches on the weekend to keep their bike running, you look at some of their Pedro's kit, which give you good, long-lasting, high-value tools. Or if you're an absolute tool nerd that wants to take on the world of toolbox wars and have the sexiest-looking tools in the world, man, some of their stuff from Abbey is just art. Usable art. So head over to leadoutsports.com or hassle your local shops to get some of the Lead Out's products in because they are the absolute best. Now, when I'm working on my Trek, who is another sponsor of this podcast, I love being able to just get in, clean the thing up, service it. Everything on that bike is made so easy to work on. There's no internal weird kind of bolts. Everything's available to be done without taking cranks off on the pivots. Cable routing is super easy. Like Trek have thought about everything when it comes to this bike. Not only does my Slash ride well, but it's an absolute dream to work on if I need to. Now, NS Dynamics keep my suspension running super supple, soft, and efficient. There is no grip compared to a fork or shock that NS Dynamics have worked on. Absolutely love everything they do. So if you want your bike to feel better than you, hit up NS Dynamics and get your suspension serviced. If you're looking to explore Tasmania, that you would be mind boggled trying to work out what place to go to because they're all so damn good. You've now got St. Helens, you've got Maydena, Derby, Queenstown. Like basically on every single coast of Tassie, there's a sick mountain bike track to ride. If you want to get the best riding experience and take all the hassle out of arranging a trip and doing all that, make sure you hit up Taylor Trails. These guys will tailor a Tasmanian riding experience straight to what you want to do. No faffing about with hotels, no faffing about with which track is good. Just hit up Taylor Trails and they'll sort everything out for you and make it the best tour you can possibly do. Now, while you're riding down there, make sure you pick up some Franked clothing. Their pants are super durable, super warm, but also breathe really well. So in those wet Tassie conditions, if you want to keep your legs dry but also feel super comfortable, get some Frank pants. I can't say it enough. And use Beyond the Tape 10 at checkout to get a sick discount on some already high value gear. It's the same over at Dirt Surfers. These guys offer 100% recyclable, 100% recycled material mud guards in a numerous amount of options that are going to suit your bike. Whether you want some quirky designs or something simple, they've got something for you. And again, use Beyond the Tape at checkout to get a sweet discount. After a big trip, you want to keep your bike clean. I love to clean my bike and make sure everything's 100% ready to rock, but I hate using anything too harsh because overwashing will actually kill your bike. Crush hits the perfect balance of harshness that cleans off every bit of dirt, but it doesn't destroy every single ball bearing in your bike. So make sure you use some of their premium bike wash or their degreaser on your bike. Keep the thing clean, keep it running smoothly. And man, fist gloves. I don't have to say much about fist gloves. They're comfy, they work, they're just damn good. And again, use Beyond the Tape at checkout for a discount on one of their rad designs. Nick Hill's just released a design with those guys a couple of weeks ago, and I absolutely love it, so I'm going to have to get on board and order them. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling. It's coming up on the 5-minute mark. So as per usual, grab a beer, grab a water, grab a wine, grab whatever makes you happy, and enjoy these ramblings from Mick, myself, and Lachy. Fuck that noise. Should we jump into this thing? Get it done.
Yeah,
Get it up.
for sure.
Sick. Welcome back. It's been a while. How you guys doing?
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's good.
Mate.
When's the last one we did? I think I was unemployed. I was definitely unemployed.
You were unemployed?
I think it was
Freshly
3 bikes
unemployed?
ago. 3? No, it was only the
So
orange.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
it'd be a couple of months, I reckon.
Yeah, it'd be 2 months. It must have been pretty fresh. It was definitely fresh from me being unemployed.
Mm.
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 weeks after you left PSI, I think.
Yeah, so probably about 2 months. Would be the
Yeah.
last one.
Yeah. Life's just been hectic for everyone. So
A little bit.
It wasn't for me for 2 months. I just rode bikes. It was sick. But yeah, you guys actually had work. Cool stuff to do.
So yeah, you got a new job. You're stoked. You're busy now. Loving it.
Yeah, I'm busy. I got some awesome projects that I cannot talk about. But yeah, it's good, man. Yeah, this is cool to kind of get the brain going with stuff that I want to do, which is cool. Yeah, had a trip over to Colorado, which was sweet. Did probably one of the best rides I think I've ever done in my life on the mountain bike. Then got COVID, and now I'm here.
Brief synopsis.
If you don't mind me asking, Lockie, how many employees has SRAM got in Colorado?
Man, I don't know. Like they're moving into a new office at the moment, which we checked out, which was amazing. Because that office is overgrown. So I don't think everyone's in that office, but like between 100 and 200 maybe. Like
Yeah, right.
So that's their head facility. Like you would love it there. That's their main rock shop like facility where they do all the designing and engineering. And there's the brake team there as well. So I rode with, if anyone remembers the science of speed, or science of stopping things that SRAM did, there was a guy talking about brakes quite a bit with the moustache and the wrist brace on. I rode with Ian from the brake teams. Yeah, Ian, who's really good human. So there's a brake team. I think it's mainly brakes and rock shock. So there's really cool stuff floating around there, which
I bet
is exciting. Yeah. But they're all moving to the new office, which would be sweet.
I've seen some leaked patents that look really sick from SRAM that look really cool. I know you can't talk about them, but what they're designing is really sick.
There's some, like, Colorado is a bit of a biking mecca, hey? Like, I remember going through there a couple of years ago and we stopped. I did like a tour of Yeti, HQ, and Common Sail and whatever. But like, point being is, I was kind of like, we didn't even stop and ride, which I'm disappointed about now. But we didn't have trail bikes, so that made it a bit harder. But I don't know, there's just so much going on in Colorado. It's a pretty cool place.
Yeah, that's the third time I've been there, but it's the first time the first time I've taken my bike and the first time I've ridden properly. There's like a little park behind SRAM called Ute Valley, which is fun. But we went off into like into the proper hills, and yeah, it's pretty sad. I think it was like a 30K climb, and then a 20K descent.
Yeah, wild.
That's
sweet.
huge.
So yeah, it was like proper backcountry riding. It was sweet, man. It was really good.
Did you end up going up Pikes Peak?
No, I wanted to, but it just seemed like a bit of a battle. Like you can ride up the road. You're allowed to now legally. You weren't allowed to a while ago. But there wasn't like a mountain bike climbing trail up. So the ride we did was kind of like the next best thing, to be honest. Like that's the longest climb I've ever done, road or mountain. It was a pretty epic day. I think I ended up doing like 90 Ks in total. So I was dead. And then obviously I had COVID at some point near there too. So yeah. And the altitude, like Colorado Springs, which is where we're at, that is at 2,000 meters above sea level at their like ground level. So we started that ride at the top of, essentially would be the top of Kosciuszko, and then climbed up another 1,600 meters. There was no air at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are basically at zero water level now, right? Like you guys are sitting below the water in Melbourne.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, definitely below it because of all the rain. But yeah, like sea level.
I kind of wish they talked about this before with a couple of mates of mine, but I wish like the Norbers and stuff still existed because, I don't know, it'd be sick if there was more big racing in America because Yeah, the industry there is so strong and all that, and like the domestic race scene is really good, but a lot of internationals kind of don't go there anymore. Not like when the Norbers and stuff are around, but yeah, I feel as though for Aussies too that like when it's a different generation now, but like Sam Hill and Jared Graves and Rennie and all those guys kind of got the initial break in America. I just feel as though like this is on such a tangent, I know, but like yeah, I just feel as though it'd be so much easier for young Aussie kids. Well, it is like because the BMX scene is big in America, right? So I did the BMX thing when I was in my early 20s, but like tripping around America and going to big races is so much easier than Europe.
Oh yeah, and like people are, like the races seem so much bigger over there. And if there was a proper series, it would be even bigger than that. I remember doing a race at Wyndham that was like a side event to the World Cup, and it came down as if you'd like race the World Cup. Like
that would have been
wild,
yeah.
Yeah, everything there, and the commentators and the prizes. Like I'm pretty sure the guys with won like a couple grand. Like it's pretty sweet. They definitely do it well there.
Definitely, yeah. They know how to do an event.
Yeah, it needs to make a comeback, or perhaps we need to have good events. But I'm going to leave that one alone. I've already had enough trouble with that. Mick, speaking of good events, how was Crankworx and everything over the last kind of month or so for you?
Yeah, it was good, dude. I think like we're having a bit of a chat just before, but it's a little bit hard for me to look at subjectively because I was kind of wearing two hats, like one sort of engineer hat with Trinity WRP and one as like quote unquote like athlete. Because this was so I'd been an invited rider before to Crankworx, but I'd never been able to compete as an invited rider because of COVID stuff. So this was the first year I'd actually competed as an invited rider. So I did everything other than slopestyle, which was like that was hectic. That was a hectic schedule alone, and then add on top of that, kind of trying to juggle the Trinity thing and making sure the thing ran and it all went smoothly. Like there was a lot on. So yeah, like I was saying here before, like I put the WRP Trinity hat on. It was sick. Like big success. Had a lot of interest in the bike. There was no problems with the bike. We had a couple of peripheral issues, but like the frame itself, like didn't miss a beat the whole week. But from an athlete point of view, it kind of sucked because like I got a flat in my race run. So like a DNF's a DNF, right? Like from an athlete point of view, it didn't make it at the bottom of the hill. So like, as I was saying, it's hard to look at subjectively because on one hand, it feels like a failure, but on the other hand, it feels like a massive success. So I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but
it's funny though, right? Like I didn't know you got a flat. I didn't see your results, but I just assumed you raced. But I feel at the same time, you know, it's such a big feat that bike was running that I feel other people probably in the same boat where they're like, it's just awesome to see the bike out there. You know what I mean? Regardless of what the result was or wasn't. Like
for sure. And like I got a lot of people out of like I don't know. I was saying this kind of thing to people at the event, right? Like I'm like by nature, like I'm a bit of an introvert. So like I kind of struggle. Like I kind of struggle just like put myself out there in front of people. As an example, we did because I'm sure you guys were keeping up to date with like the V3 build and how kind of late we left it. We had never ridden the bike. We'd ridden around Nigel's driveway before we put it in the bike box, took it to Cairns, assembled it, and then, well, seeing as though we're here, I might as well take you through it a little bit. So assembled it on the Monday. Tuesday, they had like an hour of like whip off practice. So got the bike together, and I was riding it around, kind of in the pits, and kind of up the track to the whip off, and it just wasn't right, dude. Like it was way too soft in the back. So the coil that I had in the back was too soft. And mind you, I've never ridden Fox suspension in my life before. I've got a set of bombers on my dirt jumper, but I mean, dirt jump forks are dirt jump forks, right? Like you just run them slammed and slow. So it just wasn't right. So I left the air shock at home, so I had no other shock. So Wednesday morning, Fox had a spare air shock, so they put that in for us, and basically got it set up pretty well. So managed to get one lap of downhill practice in, but again, like I've never ridden the track, so the lap of downhill practice was pretty well just roll down on the brakes, kind of look at some features. I can't remember jumping anything. I might have done like, hop some routes or something, but nothing proper. Had speed and style that day as well, actually. So I did the one run of downhill practice, went straight up for speed and style, which was really good. Felt pretty comfy on it. Unfortunately, had like a huge crash and knocked my head real bad, just in a corner. So that was that. Sort of picked myself up, did the qualies, got through it, and then that afternoon or that evening was whip off. So the first time I'd like properly jumped the bike was, those whip off jumps were no joke. And to tie it all back in, like I was saying, like I'm a bit of an introvert. Like I've never been sort of one to, I don't know, just send it for the boys first run, unless I'm feeling comfortable, of course. But like some guys sort of feed off the energy of just like getting amped up like that. I kind of don't. And Darcy Coots goes to me, we were walking up for the whip off, and he goes to me, he's like, Miko, if you case this and snap the bike in half, that's like the Trinity brand done. And I was like,
oh wow, no pressure.
But it's like that's typical Darth. And I was like, it was kind of the words I needed to hear. Like I knew it, obviously. Like that's what I was telling myself. But I was like, fuck. Like yeah, okay, this is like real deal. And but yeah, no, it went well. I mean, I could go on about it for an hour, but it was a big week. But yeah, bike didn't miss the beat. I like those jumps, like shout out to Jai and the whole crew that built those jumps, like Flux and Elevate and whatever, because they were like some of the best jumps I'd ever ridden, like huge. Like I was kind of shit myself the first time I jumped them. Like we were going so fast because then you needed to pedal in from back up at the jungle to get the speed. And Darcy's comment was just living in the back of my head, and I was dragging a heap of brake into the first one because as I like pumped the first roller, I knew I was going way too fast because all I was thinking was don't come up short. But yeah, like I bent a chain ring on the day after that because we didn't have a bash guard on it, which I knew it needed a bash guard, but it just hadn't arrived in the post yet.
Especially there as well with that rock garden.
Oh, dude, yeah. I don't even know where I caught it. I just went to pedal at some stage and noticed it, particularly because of the high pivot. So as it guides over the high pivot, it's just, yeah. And then, so that was that. And then, yeah, obviously got a flat in my race run. But I only got, and this is like, it's in no way against the event or anything like that, but this is why, like, as a rider kind of feels like a bit of a failure because I only got 3 practice runs for the whole time. And a lot of that was because I was doing other events too, like speed and style. I had to finish practice early to get speed and style practice in, and then bent the chain ring, which cost me potentially another practice run. So like the bike only did 3 runs down the hill because I got a flat right at the start of my race run. But I only got 3 runs on it. So I wish I had done a lot more riding than what got done. But yeah, all in all, like it could have gone a lot worse. So yeah,
what sort of flat did you get? Like front flat or rear flat or?
Front flat. So
oh, dude.
Yeah, I was pissed. This is just speculation.
Like, not that it would be anyway, but like it's just a front flats are just they suck. Oh, they're just bad luck, right? Like,
yeah, if it was a rear flat, like I just would have bashed it to the bottom of the hill. But front flat, like, and it was right before the rock garden too. So I was like, "There's no way I'm going through that with a front flat." Yeah, and it, like proper like debeated the tire. So like this is just speculation because I can't remember hitting anything and burping anything. But I have a feeling because what happened was because they had some real bad accidents on the day of downhill. So what they said to us, we all went to the top for our race run And I should note too that I actually DNF'd seating because I tacoed the chainring. By the time I got the chainring, like I actually had a spare chainring because I took pretty well spare of everything. But by the time I put the spare chainring on and got to the top, I actually missed my seating time. Like I got there late, and they allowed me to still break the beam. I was actually allowed to do a race run, but the point was that was on my I had my last chainring on, and it was a Hope chainring, so I just couldn't get one from anywhere. And I didn't have a bash guard, and I'm like, well, I can't. If I taco this one, I'm kind of fucked. So I might as well, at this point, like I've missed my seating time, I might as well just break the beam and go down. But point being is on race run time, because I had a whole heap of accidents, it was looking like for a while, they were so far back and I had a live TV schedule, it was looking like they were just going to have us drop in, having done no practice on that day at all. And I think, you know, that's never good. So what they said to us is, all right, if you want to do a practice run, you have to drop in the order of your race time. So what it means is you do your practice run, like do a full run, and as soon as you get to the bottom, you're not going to have time to go to the pits. You've just got to get straight back on the shuttle and come straight back to the top because, you know, you're in your sequence. So I'd done checked bolts, all that, but I checked tire pressures before I'd gone up. But I'd done that full practice run and just got straight on the shuttle. And I don't remember a time that I've never not checked tire pressure before a race run. But then I hadn't, because technically I just got straight back on the shuttle. So again, this is just speculation, but there is a chance that I've hit something in that practice run because I pretty well emulated a race run, right? Like I just did top to bottom as fast as I could. There is a chance I've hit something and burped and it's just dropped like 1 or 2 PSI, but just enough that it's low. And I've never noticed. I've just gone back up for my race run and, just caught it on a rock and I saw the sealant come out the side and I was like, oh, fuck. And then went over the bars because it kind of peeled a bit of the tire off. But yeah, I was pretty pissed about it. Like I sat on the side of the track swearing for about 10 minutes because I just wanted the bike to get to the bottom.
I love how the engineer in you is like trying to figure out how it happened. Like, if I get a flat, like, don't get me wrong, I've had flats in the past and I've been salty and done a couple bike throws here or there. But like nowadays, if I get a flat, it's like, fuck it, whatever. Like shit happens. But I love how you like have a full scenario.
So the Trinity actually cracked when he threw it into a tree after the flat. And he's just like bent the top tube around something.
I always like to learn I always like to learn from mistakes though. So like if it's something that I've missed, I'd really like to know, like, you know, but yeah, I guess we'll never know.
But you'll never know with that, so it's sweet.
No.
Should have had tyre whiz on, mate.
But I will say there must have been something in there because a couple of people flatted there, including the mate that I was staying with, Sam. He got a flat in the exact same corner. So I think there was something nasty in there that was catching people.
I remember from years ago when I was wrenching there, like there was quite a few flats and there was I don't know exactly what corner it was on, but I know a lot of rock and crack was getting held up towards the end and there was a lot of punches then.
A lot of crashes too, man. Like I think,
dude, some of them were horrendous.
I wrote myself off on speed and style and on slalom, but I didn't have any crashes in downhill. And I think half the thing is like the track's actually quite easy, but it's real high speed. So I think if something does go wrong, it's not good. And I think because it's not really, really difficult, the track, I think sometimes it's easy to get complacent on those tracks, right?
And you pair that with fatigue and a lack of practice as well. You know what I mean? Like it's probably good to have a ton of practice because you go too quick, but like that fatigue and running around and
definitely.
Like I feel in those situations, and I can see why Jill obviously had BK when she, was going for the Queen of Crankworx. You need that dedicated kind of mechanic there just to help with that busy schedule.
As I said, like obviously had some post Crankworx concussion stuff, but like even still, I think a lot of the reason I've been feeling so tired is just because of how big the week was. Like doing like wrenching on everything, racing every event, and there with the Trinity, so you're kind of stressed out about it running well. Like,
and you're probably on the whole time too. You know what I mean? Because you are a Trinity guy. You know what I mean? Like, everyone was interested in it, so you're always talking to someone, which is really good. Like, I got a lot out of it, and I was super, super appreciative. But yeah, it was a big week for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, someone say a shout out towards El Denoya.
Definitely.
Yeah, she had a huge crash in dual slalom. So hopefully she's healing up.
Yeah, that was a nasty one. That was the same jump that claimed me on Sunday.
Yeah. No, that was disgusting.
When can I order my Trinity? When is ordering?
He's had a bike for a week now, Mick. He needs a new one.
No, I want a downhill bike. I want to race nationals next year.
Yeah. Well, we're pushing for the end of the year.
Sick. So going to have it for nationals.
When is nationals? It's
February the 20th.
Yeah.
No, February the 12th to the 19th. Yeah.
We can sort you out, Lockie. We'll sort you out with a prototype or something if you really want to ride one.
Yeah, and I'm keen. I want to get down a bike, and
definitely,
we can talk offline. But I'm keen as hell to order one of those puppies.
Yeah, no worries. It's without trying to sound like self-centered dickhead. Like, I was actually very, very impressed with how it went because, like I was saying, I was just stoked that nothing went wrong with it. But yeah, I've been impressed with how they've been going recently. So it's good.
Like, that was the question I was going to ask is, like, you've done all this shit on computer, like you've CAD designed it and everything, and then did it ride like it's supposed to as per the computer?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I won't take all the credit for it by no means. Like, Chase, who's part of Trinity, he has done the majority of the design, like as far as kinematically and all that type of stuff. And it hasn't been like we've just pulled off a Hail Mary and come out with this. Like, it's been a long process, like version 1, version 2, and this. And it's been a big learning experience. Like, there's stuff now that you look at in hindsight that's like, fuck, how did we not recognize that then? But it's all a learning experience. But yeah, I think from the get-go, we knew that there was something to the kinematic. Like, version 1 felt unreal, even though it had a couple of quirks that needed to change. And then V2 emulated that for sure. And then obviously took V2 to Queenstown, and it rode really, really well. Unfortunately, like you said, had another part sort of go, but that's just riding. It is what it is. And then V3 is very similar to V2. There's a couple of changes. Some sort of in the pivot points, but only changed it slightly, really just for packaging issues, because and Lockie will know what I'm talking about, but V2, like, it was fine, rode perfect, but just for instance, like, we had to run like a 0 mil dished chain ring just so it didn't hit the chain stays, which is fine. But the point being is, if you want to commercially release it, like, you need to be able to run a properly dished chain ring. So we just need to pull the chain stays in a bit, which meant the rocker had to change, and then pivot point had to change slightly. So, like, there's more to it than what it would sound. But point being is, V3, like, they've all had a similar distinct ride characteristic, right? And it's like a lot of it's to do with virtual high pivot with eye track. Like, it feels distinctly, I mean, I've never ridden anything else that's got eye track and virtual high pivot, but it feels distinctly like a Trinity when you get on it. It's like, fuck, this is like magic carpet, which is nice.
I really appreciate that you're at a version 3. Like, I was, I'm looking at getting an e-bike at the moment, and one of the bikes is the Yeti. I'm trying to look at the website now to make sure I'm actually referencing the right thing. But it was like, how many test mules did we have to create this bike? And it was like 6. And I was like, that actually doesn't sound like a hell of a lot of test mules. And then I was like, well, actually it is, you know what I mean? But to consider as a brand something, you haven't actually sold anything yet. and you're at a V3, you know what I mean, and you're actually continuously improving it is massive, I feel, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and this is kind of the thing, like, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, because people will flame you either way. Like, if you just go straight to market, people are like, oh, you're a dickhead, you didn't test it enough. And then if you test the testing process, people will flame you because they're like, oh, you're leading us on too much. And it's like, oh my, but you never make any. But the point being is, if you're worth your weight, like you, Lockie, you understand and you appreciate that process that it takes to get to something good. I think it's the nature too,
yeah.
No, you're right.
I was just saying, like, with the chainring thing as an example, right? Like, it's super easy just to chuck a 0 mil offset on there. You know what I mean? But, you know, for the end user, that's going to be fiddly to get a set of cranks. And you could really easily just be like, we'll just buy cranks and buy a chainring. You know what I mean? But I appreciate the point of you like, well, no, if someone's going to buy a crank set, it's going to come with 3 or whatever it is on it. And then that'll make life easier. So I like that.
For sure. And, like, I think that's the point about being a rider too, right? Like, the point being is, like, I'm kind of emotionally connected to it, because the point is I'm going to rock up at Crankworx next year or whatever, and there might be someone that's bought a Trinity and I'm standing there on the track next to them. It's not like you can just kind of pass it off and be like, oh, you bought that, good luck to you. Like, kind of emotionally invested in it. So it's stuff like that has to be right, because there's no getting away from it. So
makes and breaks
a
a bike, man.
Like, are you going to do anything like the Lahars and put a little piece of yourself in all the bikes as they go out, or
just going to spit in it?
I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, maybe. I did actually. We are thinking though now for, like, the custom, or not even for the custom ones, but, like, we're going to number each one obviously, but we're thinking about ways we can do that really cool. Like, won't give too much away, but we've got a couple ideas how we can make that real cool. I know, like, Mike Laird, he makes a lot of custom BMX frames, and he's a real cool dude. I try to sort of emulate his business models a lot, because he's real cool. There was a story that he just shares a lot of I don't know, just a lot of stuff that I reckon is cool. So he was telling me, I've forgotten who the rider was, but it was a pro rider. He was one of the first pros that he made a frame for. So let's just say it was frame number 10. He made him a custom BMX frame, and whoever this rider was handed over the frame, built it up, and he contacted Mike and was like bottom brackets like 1/8 of an inch too high. And Mike's like, no, like, I did it perfect, like, jigged it perfect. And the rider's like, no, I'm telling you, you did it like 1/8 too high. Went back to the jig, whatever. And Mike's like, oh, fuck, I did too. Like, I made a mistake. Sorry, dude, like, I'll make you another frame. And he goes, no, don't worry about it. It's cool. But he goes, just give me frame number 666. So 666. So when you get to 666, that's the frame you owe me. And the point being was, like, the other month, Mike got to frame 666, and they kind of just shared the story behind it, how the geo had changed over the years and that type of stuff. But I'm like, I don't know, maybe a bit corny to people, but I reckon that's pretty cool.
No, that stuff's badass. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's getting 69. Trinity number 69 then. That's all I care about.
That's going to be Lockie's.
Yeah.
Yeah, dinner for two.
Can you just, like, get a 3D printer with a mustache and just call it the Mustache Ride or something like that? Just go, like, full weird.
Yeah, something funny, hey?
Yeah.
I had this guy
on the shelf.
And this is in no respect to this guy, because, like, I appreciate all the people who are following and the commenters and whatever, but I had a guy the other day comment on one of the Trinity posts just in regards to your comment before, Lockie, about, like, showing the development. But I won't read it word for word, but it was kind of pretty passive-aggressive. But people can see it's the first comment on the Trinity post. But basically, if I see it one more time on this page not produced, I'm going to defollow you. I'm like, what do you want? Do you want us to just come out with something
like you've given everyone the tip with this bike for like a long time now. So I kind of appreciate like where he's coming at. That's why I say to you every time, when can I order mine? Like,
yeah. Yeah.
I kind of get it. It's good. I like it. I don't feel your the thing I like about it is you show it off a lot, but it's never in a, because I know you as well, it's never in like a cocky way. It's actually like all the tweaks and stuff you've done. Like it's such a, I think everyone who's following along with it sees the whole evolution of that bike, and it's awesome. And the gearbox and everything, you know what I mean? Like everyone's invested, but I think because everyone's invested, everyone's just keen to get one.
Yeah. Yeah, the gearbox kind of surprised me, actually. It's been
I just went the other out and unfollowed you, man. Just so you know.
Yeah, that's all right. You're not getting one anyway.
You don't make it big enough.
What I did buy the other day, though, it was an eBay job, but I bought these little magnetic AirTag things. I'm thinking about incorporating them like into a print on the bike so that they'll sit up real snug inside the frame.
That's sick.
Yeah. Anyway,
I live on AirTag. My dog has an AirTag on it. When I lose her, I just press the button. My keys have it.
That's
I one on my bike. Like they're so good. Yeah, those things are bomb.
Did you see?
Yeah, that's a good idea because everyone's making mounts that integrate, but yeah, just integrate in the bike. That's it.
Did you see Geordie Cortez's? I think I mentioned this last time, where he had like 3 bikes in 3 different countries or something real weird. It was all over, and you could just see him on his AirTag.
Yeah, so bad, dude. That one that was in Ireland for like, he went to try and pick it up like after like a few weeks, and they were like, no, and he's like, it's in that room, like it's in that room, and I can make it do the beat, and they were like, no, far out. Yeah. I ran the AirTag going over this time on everything, and I was like, oh, it'd be good. I can see where it is, and I was like, all I'm going to be is pissed off if my bike didn't turn up, and like. It was the first time using them overseas, and it takes a while to refresh. And it was like, your thing's still in Sydney. And I was like, no.
Yeah, I got a bit of a shock the other day. It's I've flown bikes fairly frequently, and I'd never really been faced with this, but I'm going to start doing it as well because I went to New Zealand about a month ago, flew in, and dude, like I can't explain to you how like wild this story was, but I flew into Melbourne and walked to the oversized carousel, and the bike box that I flew the Trinity V2 in was I just moved it before, but it's a Rocky Mountain bike box, right? It's got Rocky Mountain on the side. I walked to the carousel and I was going to go take a leak and decided not to. I was like, nah, just go to the oversized carousel. Point being is like wasted no time, went straight there. And I was there for literally about 10 seconds. I had arrived, and then I saw the Rocky Mountain bike box come out down the carousel. And this guy, I started walking over to it, and this guy who was in front of me sort of took 2 steps forward and grabbed the bike box. And I said to him, I'm like, oh, thanks for giving me a hand. And he's like, no, this is my bike box. And I'm like, no, it's my bike box. And it turned into like a tug of war. And he's like, no, this is my bike box, and started getting quite aggressive about it. And I'm like, it felt like it went on for 10 minutes, but it would have only been like 15 seconds, right? But it was a bit of like to and fro. He's like, and he was quite aggressive, like, no, it's my bike box. And the point being was he'd been standing there for like 2 hours and his bike box hadn't come out, so he was already a little bit worked up. And it actually took me to point to the tag on the bike box that had my name. But the point being is he still wouldn't half believe it. So I had like on the back of my boarding pass, I had the bag tag with the number that like the same barcode number that lined up. And then obviously he got the point and was like, he was quite worked up. And then he told me the story. He's like, I've been here for 2 hours. My bloody bike hasn't rocked up, blah, 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 blah. And then by that time, my other bike box had come out, grabbed him. But the point being is, like, if I had have just taken a leak like I'd planned to, that dude would have grabbed my bike box and it would have gone. yeah, we might be able to sort it out or something. But the point being is, I'm going to air tag everything from now on.
Yeah, they're so good. I didn't realize as well, this is not an ad for AirTag, or it sounds like it, the batteries are actually replaceable. They're just 2032s. I thought they were just throwaway items.
Really? Right. Okay.
So yeah, that's why I like them. But yeah, that's such a weird exchange. Like I don't know.
I was a bit shocked.
Yeah, like I thought the end of that story was going to be that it was actually his bike box.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for.
Rocky boxes, you know what I mean? Like,
well, that's what I'd assumed too. Like a couple of seconds in, when he goes, "Oh, this is my box," there was a moment of me that kind of let go of the box. I was like, "Oh, sorry, dude." And then before I was like, "Hang on a sec, I'm going to check the name first," because, and then and it was in fact mine. But it was just such a wild altercation. And mind you, this is at like midnight too, just about to go through customs. So everyone's a bit worked up and all that type of shit. But yeah.
Who the fuck is waiting for a bike or any luggage for 2 hours?
Well, that's right. So like I had direct, because this guy's probably like, he would have been older than middle-aged, and he'd come back from Europe. So I'm not sure how much traveling he'd done, but I guess he was a bit tired and wanted to get his bike. But I after this altercation, like I directed him to like the baggage information desk, because I'm like, dude, like 2 hours. Like if it was any more than 15 minutes, I would be up at the information desk asking. So like I point him in that direction, and that's where he went off to. But anyway.
So if you're listening, don't be a dick. Read the thing on it, and if you're waiting for more than half an hour, just go to baggage assistance and then leave.
100%.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Moving on. We mentioned, Lockie, you've had about 6 bikes in the last 3 months or something.
I haven't had 6 bikes. I've had a few bikes, I'm not going to lie, but I haven't had 6 bikes. I've had, in the last 6 months, 4 bikes. But like, 2 of them I changed because of work, so that's fine. And then I went down to 1, which was the orange, which was the sweet bike. And then I just wanted a little bit more travel, and now I've gone to a stumpy. So I feel like I kind of had 2 bikes. It's good. I did one ride the other day, and it was just set up so wrong. Like I had my old fork settings written down from the old Zeb. So I had like 55 PSI in the fork, and then last night I was like, this is just wrong. And then just went to trailhead, and it was like, oh fuck! I was like, it's the new Zeb, and it's like I meant to have 78 PSI.
Yeah.
So that's better. And then, but it was good. Like it for those runs, it still rode nice, like really nice. It was just I had it in the super slack setting and didn't feel super slack because obviously I was so far in the travel that it was steeper.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take it out for a proper ride again tomorrow. But even since then, I've changed it from, I was in the low setting in the slack on the head angle. I've got it in the neutral now in the high setting, but I'll probably go neutral low. Because I like that 64 number for like enduro trail. That's what the Jekyll was. And I really can get around it.
Yeah. I reckon 64 is a magical number for like trail enduro. I really do. That's what the Trinity is based off with a 180.
Sick. Yeah.
And I reckon, like I've ridden a few bikes now. I think we might have been talking on the last potty, but I'm presuming you rode at Red Hill?
Yeah.
Eaton's?
Yeah.
Eaton's. I rode Eaton's a couple of months ago on a mate's Mega. And I had so much fun. Like it was way too soft for me because he's only pretty light, but it was so much fun. And like I'd kind of modelled off some geo of those anyway, but the first thing I did was like pull up all the geo again because I'm like, fuck, whatever they got going on here is good. And they run a 64. I think it's...
The Mega was on the list. That was another bike on the list. There's a few things I kind of wanted in a bike, and it was around that travel. I wanted UDH as well. I just haven't experienced all that stuff yet, but I wanted adjustable head angle or reach, and chainstay potentially. I didn't get chainstay with that bike, but Because it was either that, I was looking at that or a Canyon, and I was trying to get a frame off a rider in a small from the Canyon, but it just didn't end up happening because that was a 450 to 460 mil reach, and the orange was a 460 reach, which I loved, and I didn't think I would because I've always been not always, but recently been a 450 guy. So kind of going to play with, but yeah, the Stumpy kind of ticked most of the boxes, and it was pretty light, and it has pockets. I wanted a bike with pockets, so it kind of ticked a lot of stuff.
Pockets,
which is cool. Pockets, to put like frame storage.
I'd like that a lot better than SWAT, glove box, lunchbox, anything. Pockets is a good word.
Yeah. I think I stole that from Pete at SRAM in Canada, to be honest. But yeah, I like it. So in the SWAT boxes, which I love, in the pocket, I have there's the little pencil case, and there's also a bladder so I can take more water if I want, which is good because I do want to big guys. But there's so much space in that thing. So I've got a spare UDH, I've got 2 spare power locks, I've got 2 big CO2s, so I've stopped carrying a tube, CO2 head, Dyna plugs, and then I've also got the spare headset cup in there as well. So when I do go to wherever I go and I want to tinker with stuff, I can just change the cup because there is really nice, they're just a slot-in design, and then the bottom one is on a I don't know what the right word is, but you don't change the bottom cup, you just change the top cup. So it's a 5-minute change, change head angle.
It's like a ball socket joint, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it just twists in there. That's right. I thought there was something cool to do that.
The bottom one is kind of like the old Cane Creek headsets where it had the gold cup thing that just kind of worked its way into the right position. So that's what the bottom is set up as, and the front's just a drop in. It's sick. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked. And it's really light. The orange was heavy. So it's pretty much the same build as the orange. It's a bigger coil. It's the same spring actually as the orange. But I got a Zeb on it. I got codes instead of the G2. I got a 220 rotor on the back as opposed to a 200 and a 200 on the front. And with all the spares in the thing, it's 15.5 kilos. It was 15.1 without the spare stuff in there. So it's exactly the same weight as the orange. It's lighter without the SWAT box stuff in there. And it has a water bottle cage in it. So.
Heard you need water out at Red Hill.
You do. Well, I've been carrying a backpack. I use those USWE. Oh, yeah, the USWE. That's the thing. Everyone was whinging about the water thing, which I get. That was really bad, and I'm not getting into that conversation because there's a lot of things that get what happened with it. But I just don't know why more people didn't start running a backpack. But anyway, it would be more efficient when you've got no time on the liaisons. So,
have you played around with Sorry, I'm going to edit all that out because there's things going on. So you've gone from probably one of the most progressive suspension, not as in the kinematics, but as in the technology. You got the Jekyll, which is one of the more progressive suspension designs. Then you went to the Orange, which is basically your horse and cart of suspension designs. Yeah. And now you're on FSR, which is the Commodore of suspension designs.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. What has it been like going from them? And have you noticed many differences?
A lot. The Jekyll was high pivot as well. The Jekyll really suited a coil, and it surprised me that bike didn't come with a coil, because once I put a coil on that with a pretty light compression tune, it was just amazing and pretty light on rebound. That bike was good and it rode sweet. The only thing is I've probably never ridden a bike that's not designed for SRAM as much as that bike. So, you get the gears and stuff set up, it was fine, but it wasn't really access friendly. The hanger wasn't in the best place. You couldn't put an air shock in it, or a RockShox air shock easily. You could get it in. I had one in, but it was actually way too progressive for the air shock. I had 2 tokens in that thing and couldn't use half the stroke. And the new suspension, the new coil, didn't fit, and that was kind of the clincher for me because everyone tried the new coil.
I mean, because the shock heads changed, eh?
What was that?
Because the shock heads changed. Is that why?
Yeah. So it's a little bit too big. I know JT from Revo's got one, and he just mounts it the other way. That would freak me out.
He's got a special one now. He's got a fixed one. Yep.
so I was kind of like, cool, what am I going to get? And then I wanted a downcountry bike specifically for like kind of a Lake Mountain setup, but just something just to pedal because I knew I had time off work coming up and I just wanted something that was like short travel and fun. And that was worked around a 190 by 45 shot because they just released that coil size, which never existed before. And then there's a few options I looked at, and then the orange really ticked all of the kind of things except for the lack of water bottle cage. But it's probably has no place having a coil on that bike. Like there's no bike I can really think of that would be worse for a coil than that specific bike. It's just pretty kind of linear. But the reason for that is I wanted to try out how the hydraulic bottom out worked on that shock, and how the high speed kind of affected. Because I've never had a rear shock with high speed, or haven't for a long, long time. And it was really, really interesting. Like for such a simple bike, it works so well. Yeah, there was a little bit of brake jack here or there, but if anything, it helped me clean up my riding, which I actually appreciated. But you could really, with that bike, feel, the difference between the HBO being on and being off. And it went from harsh bottom outs to bottoming out, but never harsh, which was really interesting, and super fun. So that was good. The Geo, I think, was pretty dialed, like the 460 reach and the stays. Like I was really well balanced on that bike. I really liked the position I was in, which was fun. And for a 130, 120 mil bike, I was riding stuff that I just shouldn't be riding on a bike of that travel. I was riding all the Red Hill stuff with all the local guys, and it was sweet. So it was really good to kind of test that out. And then yeah, with the Stumpy, look, I just wanted more travel really, like because I was just doing dumb stuff on the orange. And I kind of got a pretty limited run on it the other day. It's pretty low on progression, and I'm probably going to look at getting the Cascade link to try that out. I've got a coil in it, and again, it's kind of similar to the orange. Like I've got HBO all the way on now, and I've got quite a bit of high speed compression to assist with it. I didn't get any harsh bottom out the other day, but it does feel a bit wallowy towards the mid end stroke. Like it's just using a lot of the travel, but I'm going to get some proper time in it first just to see, because I feel the HBO, I only put it back on after playing with it last night. Put it on and see, because it might just be like the orange where there's nothing harsh, but it does bottom out, which is cool. But yeah, it's just nice. That S-Works that's the most high-end nice mountain bike I've ever owned. Like I've owned some nice bikes, and it's not talking any of them down, but I've never had anything like that level. Like the other link is like carbon on it. It's beautiful, like the little shock yoke link.
Yeah, they are nice. Because like I have my yokes for those, and like I put a lot of work into like matching the anodizing for the link and the yoke and whatever. But you're right, the S-Works have the carbon yoke, and it looks so sick.
It's beautiful. I didn't even notice it. Like Hayden at work picked it up on it, and he's like, "Oh, look at that!" He's like, he's got the pro model, whatever, his alloy, and it's just beautiful, man. Like the finish is really nice. I used to work at a Specialized shop, so I had quite a few people I know from Specialized. Like, finally, you go to the Specialized. Like, I've actually owned quite a few Specialized, and I liked them before, but I think having the pocket now and actually seeing the finish in that tube is pretty rad. And then just everything with all the adjustment and those cups and everything. I was like, this is just like the last thing I wanted to do is get an adjustable headset and have to press cups in every time, because I will do it, and then I'm just taking a press to races or to rides, and it's stupid. So I really like it. It's pretty sweet. Just getting that rear shock dialed in, and the sag and stuff dialed in is kind of going to be the next thing. And the fork, I'm tossing up whether maybe going 170 over 160, but for now it's pretty good.
So it's like got, I think, if I remember correctly, it's got like 9 different combinations you can kind of have with the high-low, and then you've got the cups.
You got stack, neutral, steep. I don't think I'd probably ever run the steep, but I'd definitely change between the neutral and the slack, and the steep and the slack are the same cup, so that just fiddles around. And then you've got the high and low on the BB height. When I rode it the other day, like, I don't think I've had a bottom rack that low in years. I was like, this is freaking sweet. Like, I really, really like it. So I've gone back to the high because so that high-low, they've got like a geometry tracking thing. And I don't know if it's wrong or because some of the numbers don't seem right, but it's 5 mil longer on the reach in the high setting, which gets it up to like just under 450, which I like. But I had it in the slack and the low setting, the reach was like quite low 440s, which is a little bit too low for me. Like, I like that 450 to 460 works perfect with this whole stem offset thing that Mick and I have been doing. Once it gets too short, my weight's in a bit of a weird place. So, I'm going to play with that and see.
Yeah, I have a feeling
it's
that
interesting. Yeah,
I have a feeling numbers are wrong because they're going off a algorithm, like on a computer, and there might be, I think, where they're measuring the reach from is real quirky and doesn't take into account the effective seat angle and a few other things.
It doesn't change much when you change the cups, and I would assume it would change more, but I also don't know, like, other kind of things. So it's interesting. Like, it's been nice. Like, I was on Giant for a long time, and again, like, I really like those bikes. I had nothing against them, and I'm just really enjoying now being able to ride very, very different stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's fun, and I want to try and get an e-bike, and I want to try and get a Yeti, like something I haven't ridden before, and something that's quite different, you know what I mean? So, no, I'm just enjoying it, man, and learning a lot. Like, I want to learn a bit more with the shock tunes and how they work and correlate. And I enjoy it, man.
Those Yetis are completely out there. I rate them. They look really cool.
Sick. Got like that progression change in the middle and the 6-switch, whatever it's called.
Switch Infinity.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, I've liked Yetis for a long, long time. And that was another bike that was kind of on the cards, like the 150 or the 130. But just didn't have all of the things I wanted. Like, it's a little bit outdated. You can kind of see online that Richie's on a new one anyway.
I was about to say I wouldn't buy a Yeti now. I'd buy it maybe in a year.
Yeah. But with the e-bike, it's always like it's UDH on there. But then you've got like that chip to change the progression of the shock. And there's just quite a lot there to tinker with. And I haven't tinkered with e-bikes before, and there's so much more to that setup that I think it'll be interesting. So yeah, on your back to your point of like, how's it been riding all the different bikes? I'm loving it, man. It's good. Like, it's just nice not to be locked into anything in particular and to just play with stuff. I like it.
If you saw, I love Treks, I love a lot of bikes, but if you saw that Yeti in real life, you would have bought it on the spot.
I rode around on Rowney's one at Maydena.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is sick. And then I kind of just asked, do you do frames? And they're like, no. And then the only thing kind of holding me back on that is the motor a little bit. And it's really not to do with the brand as much. I've just heard, like, I really like Bosch motors and I really like the Brose motors. And that's not either of those, you know what I mean? So those are kind of the only thing potentially holding me back. I just really like Bosch and how they do all the connectivity and all of that. But yeah, I think as a frame, it's probably the most interesting e-bike frame I've seen.
Without going too deep into the e-bike world, Bosch, Brose, TQ, they all blow that other brand completely out the water. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other thing I was looking at too, like that EXE. So one of the guys at work has that EXE. Just looks amazing. And then I don't know, I just think it looks like a good platform, and that new motor is incredible. So that's kind of another option, but I don't know if I want to go down the lightweight e-bike avenue.
I'll definitely work. You haven't had one before, so I definitely think like spending time on a full-fledged one makes all the difference and will give you so much insight into how a full-fledged e-bike rides.
Yeah.
Because there's things you just don't think about, like the extra weight sends you so much further when you jump. Like, you overjump everything. Like, it's weird, but you go on the same height and there's just weird things that happen. So 100% recommend the full-fledged.
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm thinking big. Like, everyone to do it, may as well go big. Yeah. So, yeah.
E-bike Trinity will be sick when that comes out.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about it. At some point, I think it will happen. One step at a time. Get this first one done.
Get Lockie's bike sorted first, and then you can make an e-bike.
Yeah, that's right. That's taking priority at the moment.
How's the gearbox treating you? That thing looks really, really close to being finished.
Yep. Yeah. It's right behind me. It works. Yeah, it works. There's a couple of little niggly things that I just want to update. That'll just clean some stuff up. But like as far as the bones of it are all there. I kind of racked my brain all weekend on the external chain routing, like from the output cog to your rear wheel. So I literally sat in here all day Saturday with just a huge length of the chain and just had it wrapped in all different configurations, like zip tied on and shit. I started to go a bit fucking wild by the end of it because there's a couple of things that make it real hard, right? Like one being a high pivot. So you've just got an insane amount of chain growth. And then the second thing is we got eye track too. So that idler position is dynamic, like it changes. So a few times, like I had this big length of the chain that I'm talking about routed, and I was like, fuck yeah, that'll work sick. And then you cycle the suspension and it doesn't work at bottom out. Like, so there's a couple of issues that I was having. So one being like, so I thought I'd be able to get away with like a single tensioner, kind of different, but kind of similar to how Honda had their external chain routed. But theirs was like high single pivot, I guess. So the bottom of the chain kind of came up, but then it was rotating in kind of like a circular pattern from that main pivot. So I thought that I'd be able to get away with just like a single little arm as a tensioner, but there was no way. Like it took it up for like the first portion of the travel, but then just ran out of throw. And then the second drama was, the eye track thing. So what I had to do was like I took the shock out and like zip tied the wheel against the seat tube, at its highest point, like imitating a bottom out. And then you could see that like the eye track idler was like inhibiting where you could route the chain because it wasn't staying in the same place the whole time. I was going a little bit crazy on Saturday, had all types of wild imaginations. And then the other thing too is I couldn't revert back to a traditional system. I couldn't bring the chain from the output underneath the bottom bracket to a traditional tensioner at the back wheel. I couldn't even do that because what would happen is when you approach bottom out, the bottom of the chain would actually hit on the bottom of the bottom bracket. Because I got to the point where it was like 4 or 5 in the afternoon and I'm like, fuck it, I'm over this. I'm just going to route the chain somewhat traditionally just so I can ride it around. But I couldn't even do that. But then, kind of came up with I think it's dry side. Kind of came up with how that is at the moment. So it's like I've got the tensioner in front of the bottom bracket, which is pretty wild. Like it's like the neatest looking version that I have had, and it works perfectly, which is real sick. So I'm pretty stoked. There's like, again, no form of arrogance, but the gearbox is actually the easy part. It's working out how to package it that's the hard part. And I feel as though that's why no one's done it really since Honda, is because you kind of need a standalone bike to, and you've got to be willing to chop that bike up too to actually make it work. In our case, it's because we've got a modular lattice section that holds the shock and the bottom bracket. It's been really easy to manipulate that whole section. But the gearbox isn't necessarily the hard thing. It's actually packaging it that's hard.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Are you going to put that new KISS system on there? That new spring loaded?
Yeah, man. Yeah. For all the flip suies I'm doing.
I was thinking you could just cut one spring and like before you hit the jumps, you just pre-tension it. So when you come up, you do a sui and it automatically will do a bar spin for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could just put springs like on the side, like if you've got like the rubbers so your fork doesn't hit the frame, right? Just put some springs that linger out there and it'll just coil back.
yeah. Yeah, this is the perfect
like
amount
that
of
Simpsons episode with Mr. Springy when he's like jumped, like the car's going in the water.
Yeah, just dial in the perfect amount of free stroke length in the spring and you'll be set.
I just
That's a
dremeled
crazy
a
thing, like-
groove in my headset bearing. So like it just finds that notch every time. It's fine.
You actually want to talk about that?
$700 is crazy.
How much?
Like that adds $700 to the bike. I was reading on the. I think there's merit in it. It's not for me, but I think for riders, it's a pretty good thing.
I think it's I sort of had a bit of a ponder all morning about it, and I think it's ridiculous from an engineering point of view. I think there's some merit. I feel as though because someone I read had tested it and they were saying that it felt okay, like it kind of felt good. And I think it's placebo is the wrong word, but it's kind of like it's kind of like why sometimes like really fast rebound can feel cool because it's real lively. Like it might be like snap you back and you might be like, whoa, this thing's so lively. But whether it actually makes you faster or better, I don't think is the case because it's like it's counterintuitive to, or it's inverse to how an actual steerer damper works, right? Like it's the opposite. Like a steerer damper, like on a moto, I mean, there are cases like you see some FMX guys where they have it wound right on and it's like real stiff to turn. But what a steerer damper wants to do is like not inhibit the free movement, but inhibit like
The fast movement.
Yeah, it's speed sensitive. And I thought about it in relation to a shock, right? Like on a shock, you've got, say, a coil shock, you've got your coil and you've got the damper. And what they've done is they've tried to use a coil in place of where you'd normally use a damper. And that's so wrong because it's like not the way you want to do it. You want the free movement not to be inhibited at all. You just want it to be speed sensitive, which is what your damper does. Where if you have a coil, it's not speed sensitive at all. Like it's the same resistance at any speed. It's just always resistance, which just seems stupid. And the other thing is too, is that it'll be resistance in one direction, but snap back in the other. So whereas if you were to have it damp, like on a moto, if you have it dampen like in any direction, it's to snap back. So that's what I'm saying.
I rode a Hopi damper years ago. And it generally didn't feel that bad. I was like, this actually is not a bad idea because there's a proper steer damper, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing like with suspension talks I've done. Like springs are awesome, but springs are dumb. Like they store energy well and they release it just as well. And there's no control over it. The only reason I wouldn't mind trying it or seeing the merit in it is just for new cyclists and whether it potentially helps them in the way they ride. Because I do appreciate things like that for new cyclists because there's a lot of new cyclists because of COVID. But for $700 and to call it a performance thing, I was like, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's a cool like $50 item to add on that might help some people, you know what I mean? And that most riders will just take off. But $700. And then when it was like, oh, it was produced with light bill, like, and I hate to like badmouth bikes, but I rode a light bill once and that was the worst thing I've ever ridden in my life. And my leg got jammed in the linkage that was on the top tube.
I was about to ask if the circumciser link got you.
Yeah, dude, I had the worst bruise. It was for a mag review and I couldn't really be mean in the review. So I had to like make the words sound nice. But yeah, like my thigh got jammed in that thing. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm like, if that's the company, that like maybe it's not that. So yeah, it's a weird one, man. Like, yeah, it doesn't look like a $700 item. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it looks like the photo you put up, Darren, of the spring for a cruiser. Like,
the anti-basket all over spring that bikes have been using since what 30s. Like, yeah. The bit that like, because I don't know,
I'm a bit of a purist, but I saw this quote, and I can't remember exactly how it read now. I should be able to find it somewhere, but basically it was on this moto review that they were doing, and I think it was a BMW that was the bike in question, but it was an adventure bike, right? And it's got ABS, and the way the ABS system works now, I don't know whether this is governed by law or just how they've designed the bike, but what happens is it's got ABS on the bike, but you can turn the ABS off. But what happens is when you turn the bike off and restart the bike, the default setting for ABS is always on. So the point that they were making was, which I can kind of get, and I've forgotten what the quote was, but it was so good, man, and I should try to look it up, because it was something like, in motorcycle design, we've got to the point of assuming incompetence rather than skill. And I was like, it just resonated with me, because I'm like, fuck, like, yeah, because he was saying, like, if you're a skilled motorcycle rider, and like I ride a fair bit of moto, there are more cases than not where you want to purposely lock up the rear wheel. And he was on like a gravel road, like a typical adventure scenario, and a car had come to a stop in front of him, and he kind of used the anti-ABS, like locked up the rear wheel and literally like skidded sideways and stopped kind of adjacent to the car. And anyway, but I thought that line kind of stuck out, and it was something like that, like we've got to the point where we assume incompetence rather than skill. And again, like I'm not coming down on this one at all, but I feel as though this could be one of those things, like you assume incompetence, like you assume that the rider can't steer rather than assume a rider that can.
I think also it's like, as I said, the only merit I can see in it is for new cyclists, because I think a lot of that needs to be like fostered. But then it's like, is that really a problem that a lot of new cyclists are having?
I've never seen anyone just fall over because their bar's randomly turned.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
except for like some dude in Rafa kit track standing at the lights, way too drunk in Tour Down Under.
That was me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a strange. And I really hate to badmouth stuff. I love having a rant about stuff, but I hate to badmouth it. It just,
I mean,
it seems a bit gimmicky, and it's solving a problem that I don't think really exists. And I think Mick summed up perfectly. It's like, yeah, we're assuming incompetence with it, I think, a little bit.
I do like one of the commenters on Pink Bike referenced that all popular documentary Top Gun, and it was like something about how there's a line in there where exactly what you were saying, Mick, is like if the airplane that he's flying has everything turned on, he's unable to handle it the way he needs to do it because it's counteracting all the movements he needs to do.
Precisely. Like, what was the I'm not that up with, not like my brother is, I'm not that up with like names of fighter jets, but I remember there was one the British Air Force were using like 15 years ago now, but like it's aerodynamically unstable. Like the thing's not meant to fly. And the reason they've designed it that way is so it can outmaneuver any other jet that is meant to fly.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't mind seeing like a proper damper come in for people to test, but then like I just feel there's a lot less inertia with bike wheels, and again, I just don't think it's really a problem.
I really just don't think it's much of an issue. Like I've never had an issue, or I haven't heard of it being an issue either, where even guys like at the elite level, like elite downhillers, get tank slap like you do on a moto.
Yeah. Well, it's just the weight. Like all that moto stuff is like a lot of it comes from the weight, the speed, right, and then the weight of the vehicle. Being so much heavier than the rider, whereas at the end of the day, the rider is always going to be the biggest item on a bike. So is controlling that force really necessary? Like if they're losing control, and the trails are also that small too that, you know, they're probably going to hit something regardless before that does anything. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. It's such a deep conversation. Like you go into it so much, but yeah, I agree. I think the weights that you're dealing with just aren't as much, and the inertia.
Yeah.
While we're on bars and steering and stuff, I sent you guys a link. Don't know whether you looked at it. About the thread-in adjustable width bars by Newman.
I love this idea. I love this idea because I feel so many people don't play with their bar width. And a lot of people I see just run really, really wide bars, which is fine. That bar might be a perfect bar for you. But like I know a lot of people running like 800s and stuff who are like my height and have big shoulders. It's personal. I run quite narrow bars. I run like 750 at the grip. But I have for years and I like it. And I just think more people need to play with their bar width. But it's hard because you can't just chop bars.
Yeah. I second that, Lockie. Like I'm actually thinking about going down. I run 780s, but I've got 760s on my hardtail, and 760s just feel so much better. I'm thinking about going down to 760. I know Timmy Eaton's on 760. A few of those guys are. I hadn't thought about that point before. I think the one that you make is a good one, is that that those would be exceptionally good for testing out what you think's good, because in any other days you were kind of lopping your bars off, which isn't a cheap exercise.
Are stupidly expensive. Not stupidly because they're safety equipment, they have to be tested, but they're so expensive. And then you take a hacksaw and cut them down to get the right width, which I think scares so many people.
Yeah.
Like this.
I think also, like on that point, this is a separate point for that, on the expense. Can everyone just start replacing their bars every like 1 to 2 years, please? Like anything more than that, put them in the bin. And then because you are replacing them, maybe you cut them down and just try them a little bit at the end. But like that video from was it the last US round? And then everyone's posting up being like, this is why I don't run carbon bars. Those were alloy bars. Like they were alloy Renthal bars. And I'm sure, and don't quote me, they could be new. I'm sure they've been sitting on bikes for way longer than they should. And things can break. Like racing's harsh and stuff. But
did you see
bars more regularly?
That video from 2 years ago of someone pulling up off the road gut? And
where was that? At Maydena. Yeah, who was that?
It was Jackson.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah,
keeping his name out of it. But that's like ever since then, I'm like, bars a year old, I've crashed out in the bin.
Yeah, I think
like it takes so much force.
Yeah, the thing with like a bar, and this is why like your Renthals are shot peened, right, is to give it like that consistent texture, so it doesn't have a path of the weakest link. Like
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's why they're shot peened, is so the surface texture is consistent. So if you've got like a deep etch in the bar, like chuck it out, because if it's going to go, it's a path of least resistance. Like it's going to go where it's etched into the material.
That's my other point. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Torque wrench for your levers is key, and then also don't just like everyone adjust your levers when they are semi-tight, like because it's like using a pipe cutter.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah.
I've like, I don't know, maybe this is a thing from motos, but yeah, I don't know. I don't ever adjust my levers tight enough that like you'll snap a lever if you fall off, like it'll move around the bar instead of snap. I'll admit I don't use a little torque wrench, but I like with like a T25 or whatever, like say if they're SRAMs, I tension enough so I don't have to use like the long end of the Allen key, like just the short end. But yeah, I only found out the shot peen thing not that long ago, really, and I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. I think most. So I don't use a torque wrench all the time. Like road levers, I do all the time, but I can't remember now. It's between like 3 and 5, and it usually comes down to the bar manufacturer. But like, yeah, like if you're not used to tightening up stuff with a torque wrench, probably use a torque wrench. And then if you are going to adjust your levers, I would loosen your levers to adjust them and then to nip them back up again. Like it's fine to have it tight enough that they move when you crash, they don't snap. but that doesn't mean that you should adjust them at that tightness, because you are going to etch in your bar like pretty quick.
I will say adjusting your grip lock-ons with a torque wrench or something as well is super important. The amount of carbon bars I've seen, you see them snap at the grips and people are like, carbon bars suck. I'm like, probably a reason they snap there. Like, let's be honest. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's why I quite like the death grips. They actually run pretty low torque on the actual bolt, and then they're a wedge design, so they kind of hit on when you hit them on. Yeah, it's like, that's the other thing too, right? I just hate seeing when something fails, like a bar or something like that, and it's like blaming the material. It's like shit can just break, but also like I'm sure that thing didn't have the ideal life. You know what I mean? I'm not blaming whoever that rider is, but there's a lot to go into that thing being perfect that it probably wasn't. Like, yeah, adjustable bars, good.
Yeah, especially for kids. 100% for kids. Like they grow up apparently. Something like that.
Yeah. Honestly, like I'd probably look at getting a set of those just to the other way, go back to trying some wider bars and seeing, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
What size road bars do you run?
40s.
Yeah, so you got narrow-ish shoulders then.
Yeah, I really don't have massive shoulders. And that's, I actually think the bar kind of measurement I took originally from like a thing Troy did years ago when he was a kid about like, kind of where you naturally do a push-up. And that 750s just work for me. Sometimes we ran 760s on a bit more downhill bikes and stuff, but 750s has worked.
Yeah, like I'm a 46 roadie bar.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Like I have, like that's just a bit bigger. Like my shoulders will never shrink, but then like a handlebar, I'm 765 on trail bikes, 775 on enduro stuff.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to go any wider.
You just see all those kids on really wide bars, and it just, you can't get off the back of the bike. You know what I mean? Like
just Jesus dancing it. Yeah, just full out.
It's all trends, right? Like I remember it was narrow, wide bars came out when I was like in the high school, which was like Sam on like wide bars, and they were like the Funds, which I think was 760s, and 760 and the Dirty 30s, they were like the widest bars you get, 760. And I was like, whoa, these are gnarly, you know, and then that's kind of ended up where I've settled. But then when I went to like 800s, and like I've played with every bar width that you can get, you know what I mean? And it seems like wide bars are kind of trending again, I feel. Well, actually, no, I feel skinny bars are trending again actually now, but yeah. Same with suspension, play with it, see what works.
Yeah.
If you can get an item that twists, because I used to use the ODI wingtips for this exact reason. The ODI wingtips used to have an adjustable or an insert in them.
That's right.
So I think I ran like the 750, it was either 750 or 740, and then you could add 10 or 20 mil on. I can't remember what it was, but that's the reason I had those bars, and they were sweet for that reason.
Yes, I would lean towards I know it's not as clean, but I reckon the wingtips, from an engineering perspective, I reckon are better than the rotating grips.
Yeah, I have no idea how that rotating grip works though either. That being said, like I should actually look at it. But
it threads into the bar. So there's like there's a bolt on the inside of the grip, and that threads into the handlebar essentially.
Yeah, okay.
So there's going to be some
you're locked into their grip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then the other thing is too, like if you have a really wide, like if you have them out wide, I'm assuming it's going to have less support material underneath the grip.
I assume there's going to be a minimum, maximum type thing, right?
Oh, definitely. But I guess the point about the wing tips is because they're threading tips.
Yeah.
Once you thread the tip in, you've essentially got the same support material under the grip. Because what I'd be concerned of doing with these ones is, say, if you've got them wound all the way out, just say you've got them at 800 and you've only got, like, you've effectively got half the grip hanging off and you smack a tree or whatever, I'd be concerned of just snapping the grip in half. Potentially. I don't really know the mechanism, but...
I mean, I know some BMX riders that maybe just slid their lock-on grips a little bit further out wider.
Oh, yeah, no heaps of them. Yeah.
And they're completely
That was what
fine.
we used to do before the wingtips. Like, Yeah, just a little bit over.
Yeah. Obviously not 50
I
mil
think
or
it's
anything,
good.
but
I think I don't like with that is I couldn't run the grips I like. I'm very particular about grips. So
there's a rule in BMX. I think it's this is really testing my memory. I think it's 29 inches is the maximum width you can have. This is for racing I'm talking about.
really?
There's a UCI rule that's I think it's 29 inches is the max. But obviously you've got guys that want to, and they scrutineer it, but they used to.
The other thing, and I'm not sure if you can, like, that would crack me with this, is if you couldn't spin that lock-on clamp and the bolt was facing up, depending on your position, that would hurt my OCD a lot.
Yeah, I reckon you'll be right in saying that, Lockie.
That's why I can't run ODI grips, because the bolt head is never facing the right way on one of them.
Well, unless you get uniform grip.
They cut costs, so they only ever have one end cap. So one's always facing the wrong way on ODI grips.
Oh, that is OCD.
Really? I think you can swap them around and then.
No, because they make one. They make one. So you have to buy 2 sets of grips to get them facing the right way. Because they only make. No, it doesn't even work because they just make one clamp instead of having a left and a right clamp. They only have a one clamp, so it's always facing backwards when it's flipped 180.
You're right.
And it does my head in.
Yeah. That wouldn't annoy me as much as if it was facing up. But yeah.
It's just like you got to go for some grips where you like them. You have to, if it rotates, the bolt ends up underneath your brake lever or somewhere kooky. Yeah. So
I haven't run ODIs in years, to be honest. But yeah, it's all come back to me.
I'm going to finish this off with a listener question. We've only got one, because someone might have forgotten to ask people. It's from Ryan Love. Because we're talking about bars, do 31.8 bars offer better resonance damping over 35 mil bars? Is it okay is it supplementary if you ran like carbon 35 mils? Would they be the same as alloy 31 mils? He's just been swapping shit around and wants to know.
That's such an open-ended question because it depends on brand and how the bar
design
is formed too. Like some aren't like perfectly cylindrical, like they're kind of squashed or whatever. I mean, a 35 bar is going to resonate with a higher bandwidth than the 31.8. Like your peaks and your troughs are going to, because it's a bigger diameter, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of out of my depth. I don't know. I really haven't done the maths behind it. As far as the resonance, I think the only claim for decreasing resonance would be Spank with their vibrocore thing.
Mm-hmm.
What about Bontrager and what were those brands called? I was quoting them the other day.
ISO.
Yes, Aaron. ISO Zone.
That's the ones. Yeah. They were sick.
I've never heard of those.
Oh, dude. So this is a rabbit hole. They're a bar end, and then Trek shops way too long ago. You'd have a bar with none in or with normal bar ends in, and then with their bar end, and it was like this little rubber kind of thinned insert that held like a heavy weight in the middle. And so you to show customers, you just drop the normal set of bars and you drop those bars, and the normal bars go ding, and the others go ding, and stop it. But then
so it's kind of like, yep.
When Trek I rode a Trek session for a few years. I rode Treks for a long time and had the most annoying noise issues with and vibration with the rear end and braking on the carbon session 88 and 26-inch one. And kept saying Trek, like, there's an issue with this, there's an issue with this, there's an issue with it. And we'd end up tying a big bit of tube around it, which helped on the seat stay. But Trek ended up having on a few of their riders' bikes for a few years an adapter that ran from the brake mount off the edge that had the same ISO zone bar end in it. It was obviously stopping that vibration. But
there you go. So it kind of worked like a dead blow hammer, hey?
Yeah. Which was pretty cool. But yeah, I've never ridden those Spanks. Have you guys ridden those Spank bars at all?
Nope.
No, I haven't.
Personally, super into Spank.
Yeah, I haven't. I feel as though there might be some claims to it. But I feel as though if it really worked, they would have taken over the world and everyone would have them in their shit.
Yeah.
They kind of seem to, I'm not sure if they're still doing it. They kind of, you know that movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where the dad just sprays everything with Ajax? That's how they seem to get with Vibrocore. Like any void just had to have Vibrocore in it. That's how Spank seemed to go a couple of years ago.
Make a frame, spray Vibrocore in there.
Right. No, I wasn't. I haven't anything.
I was just gonna say, like, I have no like scientific or engineer based information like Mick may have, but I definitely feel a really big difference between 35 and 31.8, especially when I changed to the Zeb. So I ran 35 mil bars for quite some time on a Pike or a Lyric, and they were sweet. And I actually quite enjoyed having what felt like a stiffer interface for steering and to kind of push the fork where I wanted it to go. Then I changed to some carbon 35 mil bars, and they were just way too stiff. I got crazy arm pump from those, and they were the same angles as the alloy 35 mil bars I was running. And then I ran 35s for a while. They were Bergtex, they were sweet. And then changed to the Zeb, and the same thing happened with arm pump, and then changed to 31.8, and the arm pump seemed to go away. So I can feel a difference in the bar I run and the way my body reacts to them. But I have that's completely anecdotal, and Mercury could have just been in Gatorade that week as well. You know what I mean? But that's what I feel with it.
For sure. Like I definitely think like the flex between a 35 and a 31.8 is easy to describe from a heuristical riding point of view and from an engineering point of view. In regards to the specific question about vibration, I really don't know. I mean, the small, at a guess, I would say the smaller bar is going to have like a higher resonant frequency, whereas the bigger one will be duller. At a guess, I don't know. It's like a guitar string, right? Like the bigger the guitar string, it's just got like, I mean, its peaks and troughs are further apart.
Same as a drum kit. Or cymbals. Like any drum cymbals, the smaller they are, the higher the pitch, because it's a higher frequency of resonance, whereas the larger cymbal is a lower frequency of resonance, so you have a low sound.
But again, there's so many variables like material used, wall thickness, all that type of stuff. I think, the stiffness is the biggest one. I mean, and the best thing about the easiest way to describe the stiffness thing, and like with the Trinity, particularly leading up to Crankworx, like I was doing my head in with so many calcs, but is really like the second moment of inertia thing. And like won't go right into it, but really when you look at like increasing the diameter, what you really got to look at in regards to its stiffness and its willingness to want to bend is your second moment of inertia thing, because you increase that bar only slightly, only a couple of mil, but its stiffness greatly and I can work out the exact figure, like not right now, but like work out the exact figure. But yeah, just by going up a tiny bit means a dramatic increase in stiffness, even if the wall were to come down, because that's the thing with Trinity, right? Like going to a bigger diameter tube, but a smaller wall is lighter, but also stronger in like depending on your variabilities, of course, and what you can get away with. But and I mean, it gets into so much complexity, but like, say like a smaller gauge tube with a thicker wall, if it's heavier, it'll have more inertia behind it when it's moving, so it'll want to bend more, and like it gets pretty crazy. so not going to comment too much on the resonancing and vibration. But yeah, the stiffness thing, definitely. Like personally, I don't really like 35 bars because they're too stiff, in my opinion.
I have heard really good things though. This is not a plug because they're not the bars that I run, but I have heard really good things about those one up bars.
Same.
One of the guys at work has them, and they're carbon. They're 35, but there's quite a bit of flex design into them, and they're not a cylindrical shape. They are actually a bar I would like to try at some point if I can ever be bothered running a 35 mil stem again.
When I win the lottery, I'm going to try those Santa Cruz ones that are very, very similar. They have like an oval shape in the up bend.
Yeah, and are they the e-bike ones as well with the cable running through them, or is that
you can get either? And I think the e-bike ones are a slightly different layout for the extra.
I saw the e-bike one. I was like, that is sick. It's so neat.
Like, I'm not a carbon bar person. I've got nothing against them. It's just I've just always ran alloy, so like I'm happy to stay with alloy. But I mean, this is anything with carbon, but particularly something like bars when you're trying to tune flex and whatever. I think the reason why carbon can be really good is, obviously changing the layup and where that layup is situated in the bar to tune flex could be really, really powerful. So, like, if one up are doing that, then, I can see why they could feel really, really good. Because, like, obviously, you don't want any, like, fore and aft flex, but up and down flex is good.
Yeah. I think anecdotally, I heard this the other day. I was listening to the Deity podcast on Vital. They went from, because what was it before 31.8? It was 28.27.
28.6,
it's like bottom brackets. I forget, 28.6.
Yeah.
But they had to go to 31.8 so that they could make the bars the same weight and still pass downhill accreditation because bars got to 760 wide.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then now they're at 800 plus. They went to 35 to make it easier and cheaper to engineer or manufacture those parts to make the DH accreditation, essentially.
Right.
So that's where it came from.
Because I'm a little man and I run little bars, 31.8's sweet because I only run 7P, so I'm good to go.
I
can't run 35s because it just vibrates through my broken scaphoid and hurts my soul. So
I think the thing that's, because there's an argument, and like practically speaking, they're basically the same weight, but there have been some arguments of bar companies that 35s are lighter because, like the second moment of inertia thing I was saying before, by going up in diameter, they're able to decrease the wall thickness. But practically speaking, they're the same weight, really. But what I should notice from designing stems, and particularly custom stems, is that, again, this is a generalization because it depends on what geometry you're after and what you're dealing with and stack heights and all that type of stuff. But generally speaking, a 35 mil stem is heavier than a 31.8. So you might save some weight in some areas, but you're going to add it somewhere else because to actually clasp a 35 mil bar, you've got to have extra material there to be able to grab it. Like, you can take some more out of the throat and all that type of stuff, but you're dealing with a larger stack because your stack height needs to go up to accommodate being able to go around the bar. So as soon as you go up in stack height, you've got to have more material. So I've always thought that's really interesting. Like, I know, and I might not be the best stem designer, but for me, I've been able to design way nicer looking and way lighter 31.8 stems.
So we noticed this the other day, again, Deity, because the race team from the shop is sponsored by them, but we went from a 35 mil Deity knuckle, whatever it's called, stem to 31.8, and we had to add a 5 mil spacer to his steerer tube because the stack was lower because the whole stem as a whole is thinner for the 31.8. So the 35 has to be heavier because it's taller.
It's got more material, right?
Yeah.
So, like, and again, like, I get a bit OCD with all this, but from like a purely designing point of view, I much prefer to design around a 31.8. I feel as though it's such a nicer interface, particularly when you've got like And again, it's getting real gnarly, but particularly when you got a 28.6 steerer at the top of the steerer, but 28.6 is inch and an eighth at the top. So you've got 28.6 steerer matching to a 31.8 bar. When you're going from a 28.6 steerer to a 35 bar, obviously those are acting perpendicular to one another, but you've got such a size difference. It can get quite gnarly, not gnarly is the wrong word, but you've just got such a deviation there in size. So say for short stems even, you can get to a 30.2 reach with a 31.8 bar, but as soon as you go to a 35, you can't go short because otherwise the bar running into the steerer. So yeah, that's kind of going down a rabbit hole. But to design a stem, I prefer designing around a 31.8. It's nicer. And I not that I've ever designed one, but I even reckon it would be nicer again, matching 28.6 to 28.6. But yeah.
I need to find it, but there was a solution to that. Someone pointed out to me the other day. There's a bar company that does a dent in the center of their handlebar so that it can fit around the steerer. Yeah, it's really cool.
Talking about bee blasting before and consistent textures.
Snap in the middle and just...
Well, it's not going to because the stem's going to be clasping around it, but I reckon that's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, just full relaxed cruiser style on your way home from the trails. See bars all the way back. It's going to be sick.
Yeah.
Just chop the fuck out of your steer tube and have a Mondraker style stem where the bar sits on top. It'd be a way better solution than. Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't just cut a hole in the steerer so your bar could slide into that. That makes way more sense.
Is there
put a quill stem in your normal steerer and then you're good to go.
Is there a bar brand that you guys seem to prefer the bend of? I know, in moto, there's so much out there. You've got the Carmichael bend, the Reed bend, and all this other shit. In MTB, I guess it's a little bit more arbitrary. It's just brand specific, eh?
I don't reckon they're all correct.
9 back, 7. Dude, so many bars are out. Bergies are pretty consistent, to be honest.
I think the way they measure them differs. You can get a 9-degree back sweep on 4 different bars, and they're all completely different.
Yeah. I ran DMRs for years. They were 8. And they were just a little bit too far forward for my liking. They're not terrible. And then, Bergies are good. Or they're for XC or shorter travel, the Atmos, the Travada Atmos bars, not because I work there, but they're pretty much the same setup as well. But they just don't do a high rise. But I like a really high rise bar. That's why the Bergies do a 38, I think I'm running.
Yeah,
I was running now at a 30 because I'm 31.8, but I like a high rise bar.
They're the Rat Boy bars, right? I'm pretty sure.
I was running those, they're 30. So I must be on a 30. I'm on a 30 and I ran the steer up more.
Yeah.
The Bryson bars is what I want to run, but they're 35 mil and I don't want to run 35 mil.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a deity 40 mil, 9-degree back sweep and 7-degree up sweep rolled.
Deities are nice. I really like the common style bars, like the Right Alpha bars. For some reason, I just really like them. They've got they're 35. They're 35 rise, which I like, but they're not much upsweep. They're kind of quite neutral. Sometimes they even look drooped down. I don't know, but I really like them. The Renthals that I've got on the Trinity at the moment, they're 40 rise. They got heaps of upsweep. They feel like you like doing that. And I don't know, it just kind of feels weird. But
they've also got...
so I never get along with Renthals.
They're 7-degree back as well.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know. I like the look of deities. They kind of look... I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but they kind of look similar to the Right Alpha common style bars.
I think 8 and 9, 7 and 9, 7 upsweep, 9 back sweep for deity.
I have to say, OEMs are producing a lot better bars now, which is sick. Remember back in the day, whatever bar came in your bike, it's also because of the Aussie laws, which we won't get into, but you just fuck them off. one of the guys at work built up a Rocky the other day, like the Instinct, which is really nice. The bars that came on that were Rocky branded, and they were sweet. They were like 30 or 35 mil rise. I think they were 9 degrees or 8 degrees back street. Like they were awesome.
I think they're manufactured by Racefest. Those Rocky ones, because I think they're like next door to each other.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would have to agree, Lockie. Like some of the OE stuff, like I've been really impressed with the common style stuff, like the Ride Alpha stuff, like a heap of that gear, which is like counter to what you would have done in the past, where how you were saying you'd buy a complete and you'd fuck off all the parts. Whereas I've almost been like, in some ways, counter to that with Ride Alpha stuff. Like I've got a heap of the components left over and I've moved the frames on. Like I've got seat post bars, like stems. Not that I run their stems anymore, but like, yeah, I know, it seems to be pretty good.
It's funny. It's good how that's shifted, I reckon. Like, yeah.
Those giant bars, like even 2 years ago, was some of the worst I've ever ridden. There was just something
weird
about
thing
them.
for OEM that was hard as well was the Aussie laws, and it's still the same law, but you can put a sticker on it now.
Yeah.
Is it 690 that bars have to be in Australia with on a bike?
Yeah.
So I totally understand why brands never invested in having good bars, because they're like, well, we just got to put these crap ones on anyway. So I'm happy that's changed, because I used to hate it, like in bike reviews, working in a Trek shop. Like Trek would always get in shit because bars are too thin, but they were actually the only brand that were running them specifically the right width. And they're like, well, yeah, anyway. So, no, it's good to see.
That's why all bars say for competition use only on them when you get them off the floor.
Yeah.
Diety is 5 degree up sweep, 9 degree back, and fat bar is 5 degree up sweep, 7 degree back. But they feel like they're taller, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think they're measured.
You can see in the picture, like they're
they're like wings.
Up. Yeah, whereas deities look like, to your eye, they look flat or droop down, like they're
easy.
Yeah. But OE stuff is getting real good, which I'm pretty hyped on.
And on that note, Lockie looks like he's about to fall asleep. So
no, I'm good. I had to move from the kitchen. I got to get dinner cooked for Jess, so she's heating stuff up. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty hungry because I haven't had dinner. So, happy to wrap things up. You guys got anything you want to add? We're all good?
No, should be all good, all right?
Oh, good.
Sick.
Next time I chat, Lockie might have a Trinity.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Maybe that guy that commented will have one as well. So, who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or he's unfollowed you and doesn't know they're available. So, yeah, Mick will miss that one follow so much. All right.
No, appreciative of every follow, and I hope he does buy one.
Yeah. 100%.
Appreciative of the comments.
Easy, man.
Hopefully you didn't take anything we've said seriously. All right.
Sweet.
All right, guys. We'll speak soon. Bye.
All right. Bye.